Debbie and I are here for our weekly roundup, and as it turns out, this is the 500th episode of the podcast, if you can believe it.
Yeah, I really can't believe it. I really can't. Because as you recall, and I always remind you, the very first week of the podcast, I thought was going to be my last. Because it was...
You were continually submitting your resignation.
I was, yes, constantly. And you wouldn't have anything. You would not take it. So it was like, no, you're sticking to this. It was your idea in the first place. You're not going to quit on me. Yeah.
Right.
So anyway, it's been a fun 500 episodes. And here's to...
here we are, we're in year number 3.
Mm-hmm.
And we've gotten it down to a smooth routine.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really fun because I think before this, I would do the books, the speeches, the movies, but all of those are episodic. They're periodic. And so I didn't have any sort of regular forum to engage with the issues of the day, bring on guests.
Yeah.
So,
well, it started with you doing little clips, reaction video clips. And then I was like, it would be kind of better to do longer reaction video clips. But people just don't have the attention span. So it was like, if they actually have like a little, outlet for them to be able to hear all your different thoughts and observations and whatnot, then it'd be kind of cool. So during COVID, I think COVID is exactly what we needed to get this.
Well,
this
before
ball
COVID,
rolling.
I was on the road so much that I didn't even see how a podcast like this could even be viable. And what I've done now is I've sort of, I think, scaled back on the speaking. So I still do it, but not as much.
Mm-hmm. It's difficult. It's difficult.
It's a little more
do
difficult
it.
to do now because of the daily routine of the
Yep.
podcast. Hey, let's talk about,
The FBI.
I've been talking all week about the differential treatment by the FBI of Trump on the one hand,
Mm-hmm.
and now they're basically letting Biden self-investigate,
Mm-hmm.
meaning, okay, you look around. If your lawyers find any classified stuff, pass it over to us.
Yeah.
So there's a blatant ideological double standard. And here you showed me this is a retired FBI executive, but a senior executive who talks about how this politicization occurred.
Yeah.
So talk about that.
His name is Chris, and I hope I don't botch the last names. Swecker? Is that right?
Swecker, yeah.
Swecker. And he is a retired FBI agent. He does say that there is a huge shift ideologically in the FBI. But the interesting thing is he says that it's because of the indoctrination of kids in schools, that when they graduate college, they've been primed, for the leftist ideology, communist, socialist, whatever. And so when they graduate and they go into the FBI, they're already leftists. And so of course, when they hear Trump is bad, people, right-wingers are bad, they're like, well, let's investigate them. So it becomes kind of a natural component of their ideological shift, because they're already primed for it. So it was interesting that he said that.
I mean, this guy Swecker, he talks about the fact that the real shift, he says, came not under Robert Mueller, but after Mueller, right? He says that it was Comey and it was
Wray.
Christopher Wray,
Mm-hmm.
but it wasn't even so much that Comey was very left-wing or Wray's very left-wing. But what you're describing with regard to the younger agents is very similar to what's happened in corporations. It's similar to what's happened in publishing houses. Where they now demand, don't publish this book, or this corporation now only needs to invest in projects that are climate friendly. So
or woke. Yep.
And
so it's interesting. He says that as a result of changing the hiring requirement, prospective agents are now being selected more on the basis of ideology and idealism rather than their willingness to enforce the rule of law.
Now, that's interesting because to me that says that is a change that is coming from the top down and not from the bottom up. In other words, they're saying it's kind of like something that may be happening even in the military, where they say in the military, we no longer want people who are wildly patriotic, who are ready to give their life for their country. That's the kind of people the military used to look for. Let's now look for people, for example, who take a more skeptical view of U.S. engagement in the world. Or let's take people who simply view the military as a career, a way to move up in life, the same as you would in a law firm. And so you're going to change the complexion. And I obviously don't mean the racial complexion. I mean the type of person that you're going to get in the military or the FBI, the ideology, if you do that.
Right, because he goes on to say that, once you're in there, you can decide that President Trump is not fit to be president, therefore we need to go after him. Or you can decide that domestic terrorists only exist on the right, therefore we need to go after them. So you pick winners and losers, and that's how you operate.
This is sometimes known as the GIGO principle, garbage in, garbage out.